So for this video, I'm going to be reviewing the blue creeps that currently exist in Artifact. And if you have not seen any of the other videos from the series, when I say review, I'm not going to be giving them a rank or any sort of numerical value. I'm just going to be talking about are they good enough to be played and constructed in the current meta? Do they see play in draft? And if they don't see play, what are the kinds of things that you would look for in the future that might increase their power level, or what are the situations where you would consider playing them? So this one's going to be short and sweet because there are not very many blue creeps currently in the game. There are certainly some blue spells, and when we get to the spells section, you'll see those that create creeps. But actual blue creeps, there are only 4 of them. And we're going to start by talking about Relentless Zombie. This is a 2-mana 2/2. And when you play it, it gets Death Shield. And the way Death Shield works is that if it would die, it does not die. Instead, it survives with 1 health. And you can see that by mousing over that here. So, Relentless Zombie is not played at all in Constructed. I don't think I've ever seen it played against me, both in the closed beta and since launch in Constructed, because 2 mana for a 2/2 is just pretty not impactful. It is better than nothing, and there are some cases where, you know, if you're maybe trying to stall, it certainly can, you know, do that for you. And because of that, it is sometimes played in draft. I have seen it played in draft. I played it myself a few times. You're not typically playing this to be aggressive because of the Death Shield. Usually, Relentless Zombie is a good tool for putting it in front of either a big hero or a big creep, so that it soaks the damage, if you will, right? It just takes the damage and then it survives because of the Death Shield, and then takes that damage again the next turn. So it can be a very good or a very effective stalling tool, but there's just better options when you're playing in Constructed. And in Draft, it's oftentimes a filler card if it is played, which is fine. Like I said, it's not entirely useless in Draft, but it's not something you're prioritizing. And, you know, if you get one late in a pack, and you need, you know, just some bodies, then you can certainly use it. But yeah, that's Relentless Zombie. You know, in the future, if you were looking for things that might increase this card's power level, perhaps anything that has interaction with Death Shield, right? You know, in theory, if they ever made a hero that gained some sort of passive ability whenever a Death Shield got used up or something like that, then this obviously would feed into that. But right now, it's an okay draft card, not a great constructed card, and we're going to move on to Satyr Magician. This is a 5-mana creep for a 2/5 body. The 2/5 is okay. 5 health is above 4, and 4 is a sweet spot for a lot of things because 4 is what would kill a melee creep, so respectable health total. Has an active on a 1-turn cooldown, fully restore your tower's mana. So if you play Constructed, then you are probably familiar with Aghanim's Sanctum, the support, improvement. That's my Elder Scrolls Legends background peeking through a bit. The improvement card that allows you to do essentially the exact same thing. Now, the reason that Sanctum gets played over Magician is twofold. Well, actually threefold, really. 1, it's cheaper. It doesn't give you the body, but it is cheaper, which means that you can enable combo effects a little bit easier with it. 2, you can cross-lane play it. So you can, you know, play the Sanctum in lane 1 into lane 2 or lane 3 to really get some value out of it. And then 3, because it's a improvement card, there are less cards in the game and less ways to effectively get rid of it. Because Satyr Magician is a creep, I mean, yes, you have the body, but the body is actually a liability in this situation because all the power comes from the active. So this thing can still be blown up with Annihilation, killed without any cost. It can be killed with a Slay, just killed over time where the Sanctum cannot. So the Sanctum is cheaper, more resilient, and has cross-lane capability. So in Constructed, Sanctum is the way to go. Now, that being said, this card is perfectly acceptable in draft. Again, I don't know how high I would prioritize this. Maybe if I knew I was playing blue, maybe a little bit. You know, again, the 2/5 body in draft is respectable. The active is good, right? Like, we know the power of Aghanim's Sanctum, so we can you know, understand that this is going to be on a similar power level if you can pull it off. But yeah, you know, it's a good draft card, and not something that I would like first pick out of a pack by any means. But just does not see play in Constructed because Aghanim Sanctum, for all intents and purposes, is just superior in the current meta. Things that you could look for in the future that might make this card slightly more powerful would be, again, effects that would maybe trigger or give you some sort of benefit if you're using active abilities from creeps. Again, maybe they make some hero, maybe they make some other creep or some other support or something that gives you a bonus whenever you activate an ability on a creep. There are not many creeps in the game that have active abilities, and so this might be one that you would consider in those situations. But that is it for the Magician. Next up we have Troll Soothsayer. This is a 6 cost creep with a 2/8 body, so that is a pretty big body. You know, 8 is a lot of health, survives at any cost, survives 4 turns worth of banging into melee creeps. So this is, you know, a resilient creep. The text on it says draw an extra card each round. That is also pretty good. Now, in Constructed play, this just doesn't see play at all. At least I have not ran into it personally in Constructed play, not even in mono blue decks, because 6 mana is a big mana turn. Typically, that's when a lot of the more powerful effects in the game really come online. And this is certainly a good effect, but it's not like impacting the board, not in a very immediate way outside of just playing the creep. And there is a chance that you could play this and not get the value of drawing a card out of it. Again, because it has to survive. Because you draw a extra card each round, it's going to be at the beginning of the round. So you could play this and it could die, and then you've essentially spent 6 mana for a glorified creep. It's just, you know, again, at 6 mana, like, you're looking to play cards like Annihilation if you're playing blue. You're not looking to play, you know, a 2/8 creep. And as good as drawing cards in this game is, I mean, in most card games, drawing cards is pretty good. It's just not on the power level needed to hit the Constructed meta right now. In draft, it's very, very good, in my opinion. 2/8 is a resilient body. In draft, a lot of times the quality of cards is more like in the mediocre or middle ground overall, so you're less likely to have access to really powerful 6-drops all of the time. And then going a step further, the more cards you draw, the more likely you are to find your really powerful cards that you did draft, right? In a typical draft, you may have a small handful of cards that are incredibly powerful. You know, they're the rares that you drafted, or, you know, a couple of the bomb uncommons that can sometimes win you a game as well. But you don't always draw them with consistency, and so drawing more cards means being more consistent, and in draft, that's a good thing. So I think Troll Soothsayer is a good card in draft. Again, not a great card. This is not something I'm first picking because it doesn't win a game on its own, but it is definitely above the curve in terms of draft power level, and I'm typically happy whenever I can play one if I'm playing blue. So as far as future synergy, again, this draws cards, so you're looking for anything that might give you a benefit or a bonus for drawing more cards. Again, think about heroes, creeps, improvements that maybe have some sort of passive effect that increases whenever you draw cards, or maybe it's whenever you draw extra cards, or whatever the case may be. Those are the kinds of things you're looking for in the future that could potentially combo with this. And then the last creep in blue is one of the most famous or infamous, depending on your point of view, cards in the game. This was the card that was so good it had a deck named after it, Incarnation of Salamene. This costs a 9 to hit the board, but it is a 3/11, so it's a big body, and the text is the most important part. Fully restore your tower's mana after you play any card. So once this hits the board, as long as it's on the board, you, for all intents and purposes, have infinite mana. You can play anything in your hand. as long as you got a hero of the color present, right? Because you have to still meet that requirement, but you can just go hog wild. This is what was the linchpin, the backbone of the blue-green Storm deck that was the subject of a number of nerfs during the balance patch. And I mean, it's just a powerhouse. It's a powerhouse in draft. I have won a couple of drafts as well because of this card, so this definitely sees play in Constructed, though it's not as popular now after the nerfs to the blue-green combo deck, but every now and then you will still see it pop up. And again, it's good enough in draft. I've been lucky enough to drop an Incarnation, and then because they didn't have an answer, turn that into like 2 Thunderhide packs on top of it, and then you just win the lane. So it is a very, very good card. Very high in power level, and as such you want to play it in Constructed, in combo decks. You want to play it in draft because it can just win you the game sometimes in draft. It's a good card. Now, it's already good, but again, the sorts of things you want to look for future synergy are, I mean, the blueprint's kind of already been laid, right? You're looking for things that draw cards and then things that have big time effects. Typically things at 9 or less, because the minute you can play this, that's the time that you would want to go off. Now, there may be a time in the future where we start trying to see you play this card when you still have more than 9 mana, because you might want to machine gun things. You know, I seen somebody in the closed beta, for example, they were trying to make it so that they used Canna to win 1 lane, just with creeps, and then their other win condition was to play Incarnation in a 2nd lane, followed by 2 Bolt of Damocles, because that'll just take out a tower. So like the idea was you use Canna and your traditional like board pushing strategies to force yourself down 1 lane, and then at that point it didn't matter if you were losing the other 2 lanes as long as you didn't lose them completely. You kind of just had to stall there, and then you could drop Incarnation when your opponent had either expended resources or mana or whatever the case may be, and then turn that into a double bolt to just sneakily take that tower. Now, the person that I ran into, as far as I know, they didn't get that deck style, that deck archetype to be fully successful, but at least they were kind of toying around with the idea. And so Incarnation is one of those cards that, because of its power level, as more cards get printed, as more strategies open up, it will be a consideration for kind of cool, neat combo decks like that. And so keep your eye on that card, you know, for obvious reasons. So anyway, this one is short and sweet. Like I said, only 4 blue creeps. And if you made it this far, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. I'm trying to get better at selling out, if you will. So if you are a new viewer, consider subbing. And I hope to see you, metaphorically anyway, at the next video. Thanks for watching.